Anti-Afro Spingali's. I'm going to talk about Wendy Williams. What's happening with Wendy Williams reminded me of a situation in The Color Purple. I want you to check this out and tell me whether or not if you can figure out what point I'm trying to make.
Dear God, after many years they let Sophia out of jail just to put her in the next. She ended up being Miss Millie Maid after all. Mayor bought Miss Millie a new car, and she done asked Sophia to teach her how to drive it. Poor Sophia. Stuck with Miss Millie for the rest of her life.
Now hold on here.
No hold on, Harpo.
If you hadn't tried to rule over Sophia, white folks never would have got her.
Now that's a lie. Now that's a lie.
If you hadn't tried to rule over Sophia, white folks never would have got her.
Okay, the point I'm trying to make, Wendy Williams is a ward of the state, just like they made Sophia a ward of the state. I mean, the circumstances were different, but these were government officials that stepped in and decided they knew what was best for Sophia. And here we have Wendy Williams. One thing people don't want to recognize, that the government can assume control of you if there are conditions present. Whether you can't take care of yourself, you're being exploited, you've committed a crime, you need to be under the care and supervision of someone else. There are provisions in the law. We don't have the freedom to do whatever we want. And whenever someone is in a situation where their capacity is questioned, other people are going to get involved, hopefully to protect the person. There are a lot of times this goes on and the authorities and the government is not involved and somebody's completely taken advantage of. God forbid they end up thrown off of a bridge, found in a lake, or never to be heard from again, but their bank accounts have been raided. These are some shady subjects surrounding Wendy Williams that were stealing her money. And initially she denied her son was doing this. Doesn't that give you an indication that she cannot protect herself? But now she's saying her son did steal her money.
What is going on with my son? And where's my phone? Where's my phone, Kevin? Where is my phone? Why are you keeping my phone? Why? And there was nothing that I could do without my phone. You know what I'm saying? Who am I going to call? I don't know anybody in Miami. I don't know anybody in Florida except for my family, you know? But that is my life. And so my son is overspending, and I'm like, okay, what is going on? My son, you know, he overstepped his boundaries in terms of me. You understand? He overstepped his boundaries, and he was inappropriately using my money without telling me crap about it. You know, like, is he stealing from me? Look, all I know is that in terms of what I'm dealing with, and that this is still going on, because, you know, that's when my money got frozen at Wells Fargo, thank God. No more money stealing from my son and the other people. He has a way of getting with, you know, a couple of other people. You know what I'm saying? My son is not the only one, you know what I'm saying, involved with my money. You know what I'm saying? And by the way, somebody pretended to be me, okay? And it wasn't anybody in my family. It happens to be a person that I was introduced by my son. You know what I'm saying? And it's a woman approximately my age group. You know what I'm saying? It's nobody from the family. Listen, this woman called on the phone pretending to be me. Red flag, Wells Fargo, red flag, red flag. And so red flag, thank God, they stopped all of the money that had been stolen from me by these people. You know what I'm saying? And they stopped, and fortunately I still have money left. And that's, well, I mean, that's, you know, I guess guardian. Well, guardian, you know what I'm saying? Well, thank God. Thank you. Listen, my son is a really good person. You know what oh God, I'm not going to cry about that shit. Oh, I'm sorry for cursing. Look, my son is a good person, but at this point, he is a horrible person to me. You know what I'm saying? You know, It's the way he moves with other people. You know what I'm saying? And what is going on with these other people at my apartment in Miami?
Don't ask me to borrow money. If you ask me, oh, Wendy, I need, $5,000, my rent is backed up and I'm about to be thrown out. First of all, I'm not feeling sorry for you. I'm looking like, oh, well, sell that Gucci bag. People spend money on the stupidest mess and then come and complain? How dare you? I've been working 33 years and only been unemployed for 2 weeks.
There you go, folks. Okay, the short clip at the end, as you can tell, it occurred before Wendy was placed under guardianship, and I wanted to make sure you heard out of Wendy's mouth how she feels about her money. So I'll get into that a little bit later based on comments that her son had made about her money. And I'm sure there's much more that's going to come out, but I put Harvey Leach, Harvey Levin up here along with Charlemagne the Fraud, because I think they are also exploiting Wendy. They're not in her bank account, but they're making money off her as well, getting ratings off her. But let's focus on the son. Wendy was running around saying her son didn't do this. Now she's saying he did do it. The bottom line is this: the son sat by and watched his father mistreat his mother for how many years? I mean, what is more exciting to a thief, to a bum, than having a wife and now a mother who has severe alcohol problems, who has severe drug problems, and poor memory? The poor memory just didn't happen right off the bat. So that allowed the ex-husband to take complete advantage of Wendy. The son sat back and watched him do it. The same thing. Now, they said the son apologized in court. He apologized to the judge about what happened with the money. If he didn't do anything wrong, what is he apologizing for? Just because someone has money and they're your relative doesn't give you the right to go and raid their bank account. He straight up stole. He was out there saying he needed to rent a boat for his party or something for $1,500. And listen to what ended up happening.
There was a situation where Kevin says he wanted to rent a boat for his birthday for $1,500 and ended up getting a boat that rented out for $113,000. And he blamed it on the bank, that the bank wanted him to have that. That never really made sense to me.
Nor me.
I actually think Wendy has provisions for her son, allowable provisions in the guardianship situation, the setup that the court has approved. But I think the son wants all the money. It's reasonable for a parent to say, I want my child, even as an adult, to be taken care of. But he wants all of the money, no controls, no monitoring. He wants to just raid through that account without any constraints. And they're not going to let that happen, thankfully. Here's the bottom line. The guardian that was court appointed to look over at Wendy Williams' affairs said this last year, people, that Kevin was raiding the bank account, that other people were raiding the bank account. And all of this hostility and anger was heaped upon the guardian, who's doing the job that the court appointed her to do. Guardians don't operate in a vacuum. Their work is scrutinized. They have to account for everything they do, and they follow the court's orders. The guardians or conservators, the word guardian applies in New York, they don't do what they want to do. They follow the court's orders. But since there's no one else to go at, they targeted the guardian, who said this all along, that people were ripping off Wendy Williams. All along, they said this. And I just want to say, for those who have to end up going under guardianship, it's a last resort. And if you look at Wendy Williams, you can't deny that the guardian stepping in, the court stepping in, saved her. She has to even acknowledge that herself. You heard her here. They have to acknowledge that guardianship, they don't want to admit it. Those who were attacking this guardian, even Wendy Williams, but ultimately had to admit being in this guardianship benefits Wendy. Look at the improvements that she has made. Remember, again, last year when the special came out, everybody was expressing all this concern. Now they're saying she's so much better. She speaks more coherently, or at least their interaction with her is seeming like the Wendy Williams from the quote old days. The improvements that Wendy Williams made, she made them because she has the guardianship. She made the improvements because she's getting access to the care that she has. That is why she has improved. So as far as getting another assessment, if the court is allowing that, again, we don't know because we don't have access to the records. Let's say the court is allowing another assessment. Do you know how that works? The judge is going to look at the new assessment and the judge is going to compare it to the other assessment. He's going to see, it's a male judge, he's going to see which assessment is more thorough. Were the tests replicated? Are these tests, exams, and scans what they use to diagnose people with major neurocognitive disorder, aka dementia? Now, I want to make sure people understand when people are diagnosed with major neurocognitive disorders, it's either probable or possible because you don't really know verification for sure until you do extensive studies of brain tissue, and that can only be done when the person is deceased. But the probable and possible diagnoses of major neurocognitive disorder is what they document. Now, probable means it is more likely than not. This is the medical standard. Possible means there could be other factors that weigh in. We don't know if a diagnosis is a probable or a possible. But here's one thing that will not change. They have done brain scans and imaging. They can tell gray matter and white matter and volume loss. That does not regenerate when you're talking about the brain. It's not like it's the lungs or the liver. If you quit smoking soon enough, if you keep drinking soon enough, those cells will regenerate to a large extent. When you're talking about the brain cells have extremely limited capacity to regenerate. And when you're talking about major neurocognitive disorders, you're not going to get that regeneration of volume loss, gray matter, white matter. That is seen on a scan. So how can another professional come in and run the same scans and say there isn't volume loss, or take a look, because the new professional who's supposedly doing this new assessment will have to look at the other findings. That new professional, that new neurologist, because it has to be neurologist and it has to be two people signing on to the results. So it's actually going to be 4 people. 2 physicians need to give the diagnosis. So you're telling me that this new assessment is going to say there's no volume loss? That they're going to read the scans differently and he's going to run new scans, or she's going to run new scans, and it's going to be a different outcome? I don't think so. I happen to believe that it is more likely than not that she has a major neurocognitive disorder. And when you're talking about people who have decades-long dependency, aka addiction, on alcohol and cocaine, it further exacerbates and accelerates the potential that this diagnosis is valid. Alcohol and stimulants wreak havoc on your brain, permanently altering your brain chemistry. That's the way it is, folks. Now, not everyone has the same outcome. Everyone is individual. Someone can drink for 30 years and not have the effects that you would see in someone else. Somebody can smoke forever and a day and they won't have the same outcome. It's individualized. But the studies are clear. The more you drink, the earlier you drink, your volume of drinking has a serious impact on your internal organs. We're not talking about people who are casual drinkers or they like to kick back every once in a while. We're talking about dependency, a very serious dependency. And Wendy Williams herself has acknowledged that. Before this whole situation with the Guardian came about, Wendy Williams spoke openly about having a severe problem with alcohol, about having a severe problem with stimulants, aka cocaine, and God knows what else she was doing. This wreaks havoc on your brain chemistry and permanently alters the way your brain functions. If it affects you to that degree, if it doesn't affect you to that degree, it just doesn't. We can never tell. And I have another video I'm going to post about some other things that have come up. Wendy Williams is playing, y'all. Wendy Williams is being overly dramatic, and I'm going to address that aspect of her behavior or her conduct or what she's showing here in the public. But I want to reemphasize that the Guardian was correct. She said this last year about the Sun ripping Wendy off and other people, and everybody was throwing eggs and tomatoes at her, saying that she was ripping off Wendy. Listen, people, if somebody is maintaining control of your affairs, every aspect of your life, they deserve to be paid for that. It is not free. The taxpayer's supposed to pay for it? I mean, what is the difference? She was paying managers to do what? How well did they manage her career? Was her husband her manager at one time? Oh my God, I think so. They're paid. Publicists are paid. So how is it somebody who has to take over your entire life in terms of managing your affairs, they should not receive a fee from the court? That's ridiculous, people. There are people out there who can stand up and say they took care of their parents' affairs, they took care of their aunt's affairs or relatives' affairs. Do you think it's something that you should have been paid for? The work that you put in? Some people have to quit their job. Some people need to quit their job in order to take care of a relative. It's not easy. Absolutely not an easy thing to do. Now, Wendy is not in a situation where she is totally dependent. She needs a moderate amount of assistance to the point where she could not live in a 2-story apartment anymore. It is dangerous. Wendy has difficulty even going up a step, like from the street onto the sidewalk. She's unsteady on her feet. You can't have somebody living in a 2-story apartment when they're a fall risk. These are all the things that go into making these decisions. Ultimately, the Guardian, Wendy being a ward of the state, has been given court orders, court directives to manage Wendy's affairs. The family was not in any way able or capable, qualified, or ethical enough to manage Wendy Williams or any aspect of her life. She's been taken advantage of her entire marriage. And when the Guardian met with Wendy's ex-husband or scheduled a meeting with him, he was demanding that Wendy go to the meeting. Wendy did not go to the meeting. The Guardian did. And he was furious. And he was furious because he knows all I need to do is have Wendy Williams in a room and I can have my way. I can persuade. That's what he was thinking. But he was shut down. Wendy didn't need to be there. I'm handling Wendy Williams' money. The court put me in charge of her financial affairs. I'm the one you're going to deal with. Again, we don't want to think about this as a reality. The law will step in. The law steps in when someone submits a will. Someone has a will, they pass away, and the relatives submit the will to probate court. You have to do that. It's required by law. You don't just do what the hell you want. Even if you don't have a will and there are assets, unless the family all agrees, somewhere, somehow, you got to get the authorities involved. If a person has passed away, if it's smooth sailing, the spouse brings a death certificate to whatever institution. They provide proof that they're the spouse, and it can go smoothly. But when you start talking about a lot of money, it can get very complicated. I also want to say something people don't realize, or some people don't realize. This does not happen just with people who are wealthy. There are plenty of people who are destitute, who are poor, who are homeless, who are wards of the state. It depends on what level of interaction you have with the authorities. What level of interaction do you have with the health system? If you continue to show up in the emergency room and you have very serious health issues that you can't effectively manage, the hospital can initiate the process of you being a ward of the state. But a lot of times people go to the hospital and they leave, your treatment is done and you can't find them. That delays a lot of times whether somebody is going to be considered a ward of the court. But if they keep showing up to emergency rooms and having these very serious health issues and they have to be hospitalized for an extended period of time, that gives the hospital the chance to submit the documents to the system, to the court system, to adult protective services, to get the guardianship process underway or the conservatorship process underway. But not if you're bouncing around. It's harder if you're bouncing around. And they can't just come up to you on the street and say, you're acting strange, we're going to make you a ward of the court. No, there needs to be some level of interaction with the system for that ball to get rolling. Decisions regarding her life are made by a guardian under the direction of the court. The family did not submit documents. What they wanted to do is have Wendy Williams all to themselves so they can drain her bank account. That happened. The guardian said it was happening, and now here we are. Now, about this Lifetime movie, I'm going to get into that because people are also blaming the guardian that she allowed this to happen. Also false. I'm going to cover that in another video when I'm dealing with the drinking issues, because there's an issue that came up. Wendy Williams, again, is playing you all. I'm going to talk about that in another video, but I wanted to come on and say these few words about the situation and the money. So, folks, more coming your way. In the meantime, buyer beware.